I noticed something from childhood to present, and I see childhood is always the root of every tree I plant. That connection can change lives, word to the shadow. Some people are not just uninformed, they are aggressively uninformed. They are ignorant about literacy, ignorant about the topics they discuss, ignorant about managing their own lives, ignorant at jobs they've done for years, ignorant in kitchens they've been burning food in for 2 decades, ignorant with money, with parenting, with relationships, with religion, with politics, with trends, with social media, and somehow still loud enough to host a TED talk nobody asked for. And the pattern I keep seeing is the more a person refuses to learn, the faster they are to anger. Not always, not every person, but enough to notice. They are poor listeners. And even when they do listen, they assume too much. They do not hear words. They react to feelings. They read tone, posture, facial expression, silence, and body language like a scared animal trying to survive in a language it does not speak. That does not mean they're evil. It means they're dangerous when they refuse accountability. But once a person combines ignorance, assumptions, and anger, correction becomes an attack. Accountability becomes disrespect. Boundaries become betrayal. Facts become, you think you better than me. And now a normal conversation has turned into a courtroom, a boxing ring, and the altar call all at once. That is why this topic matters. Ignorance does not stay inside one person, it spills into homes, classrooms, roads, stores, comment sections, relationships, and entire communities. And if people do not learn how to slow down, think, listen, regulate themselves, the future is going to have more people with louder mouths, shorter fuses, weaker comprehension, and stronger opinions about things they never took time to understand. And the next section is the agenda, what lump thinking really is. Ignorance is not just not knowing, it's refusing to learn. There's a difference between thinking and not knowing and protecting your ignorance. Not knowing is human. Everyone starts somewhere. None of us were born reading contracts, managing emotions, understanding credit scores, or knowing how to cook without turning chicken into evidence. But willful ignorance is different. Willful ignorance is when a person has access to information and still chooses ego. It is when they would rather be wrong loudly than corrected quietly. It is when they would rather defend a bad habit than build a better one. It is when they confuse being familiar with something for being skilled at. You can work somewhere for 10 years and still be inefficient. You can cook for 20 years and still burn food. I know a few people. You can go to church every Sunday and still weaponize scriptures you do not live by. I know thousands of people who do that. You can talk about money every day and still not understand interest, debt, taxes, credit, or how predatory lenders eat off confusion. The data supports the seriousness of this problem. In 2023, US adult literacy and numeracy scores declined compared with previous years. The National Center for Education Statistics reported that adults performing at the lowest literacy level increased from 19% in 2017 to 28% in 2023, while adults at the lowest numeracy level increased from 29% to 34%. And I'm going to pull up the source for that one so you can see it like visual, because stuff like that needs to be visually seen and not just read off, because this is really vital information. Because as a country, the less people know as a whole, that's the weaker we are in so many ways. And this is the information. Overall results between 2017 2023, overall scores for US adults decreased. Like, this is a problem that could be solved at home. Like, it's not something that we expect to do overnight, but if people just made a conscious effort And this is a national skills issue. That means this is not just about people online being dumb. This is a comprehension issue, problem solving issue, workplace issue, parenting issue, democracy issue, a survival issue. Because if a person cannot understand what they read, cannot calculate risk, cannot process nuance, and cannot tolerate correction, they become easy to manipulate. They become valuable to scammers, valuable to rage baiters, predatory lenders, political grifters, to luxury brands selling status instead of quality, valuable to anyone who knows how to make ignorance feel like confidence. And why the brain loves shortcuts. Assumptions are mental shortcuts. Sometimes they help us survive, but when a person lacks knowledge and emotional control, assumptions become gasoline. They assume someone skipped the line. They assume the cashier has an attitude. The teacher's picking on their kid. Coworker is trying to make them look bad. The driver in front of them is disrespecting them. A friend setting a boundary is acting funny. A person using big words is trying to embarrass them. And once they assume, they stop listening. That is the danger, because an assumption can become a full emotional reality before a fact even enters the room. This is why so many public conflicts escalate over nothing. A person misreads a moment, assigns disrespect to it, reacts with anger, and then justifies the reaction because their feelings are now serving as evidence. But feelings are not always facts. A feeling can be real and still be wrong. You can feel disrespected when no one disrespected you. You can feel attacked when someone corrected you. You can feel excluded when you simply did not plan. You can feel rushed when you wasted your own time. You can feel judged when the truth was just walked in wearing work boots. And if you do not know how to pause, you will punish people for crimes they only committed in your imagination. Just your imagination, once again, running away with who? You. When a personal pain becomes a universal rule, anger is not automatically bad. Anger can protect, it can reveal a boundary, it can push people to confront injustice. But unmanaged anger is different. Unmanaged anger is emotional maturity with a megaphone. It is the person huffing and puffing in a long line, even though the place is historically busy. It is the customer yelling at an employee who did not create the policy. It is the parent defending a child's bad behavior because accountability feels like personal rejection. It is the driver tailgating someone because they left late and now everyone else is the villain. That's actually legal too. Psychology research does not support the idea that people can simply excuse every outburst because they're stressed. Stress matters, trauma matters, mental health matters, and pressure matters, but emotional regulation still matters. When people repeatedly use anger to control a room, avoid accountability, or punish correction, anger becomes a social weapon. A sharp fuse in an ignorant person is dangerous because they may not know the difference between inconvenience and actual injustice. A long wait is not oppression. A correction is not abuse. A boundary is not betrayal. A rule is not disrespect. And a delay is not a personal attack. But when someone's emotional regulation is weak, talking to you, red pillars, every inconvenience becomes a courtroom drama starring them as the victim, the judge, and the executioner. Real world examples. It occurs in dating, family, people who experience in poverty, parenting, and social media. And the not everyone is like that trap makes you cling to stereotypes, reject new information, hinders understanding. And the hypocrisy scale, well, that actually was the slide for the next one. So a lot of this starts at home. Some people are raised in homes where accountability is selective. The favorite child gets protected. The responsible child gets blamed. The loud child controls the room. The quiet child gets ignored. The rebellious child gets explained away. The dutiful child gets used because they're strong enough to handle it. And when families are ignorant, angry, and assumptive, they do not investigate. They assign blame on bias. If one child has a history of lying, stealing, rebelling, or breaking things, and another child has a history of good grades, manners, consistency, and responsibility, a grounded adult looks at patterns. But an ignorant adult looks at preference, and preference will lie to protect itself. That is where a lot of people first learn injustice, not from the world, but from the dinner table, from the living room, from the person quoting scriptures they don't practice, from the parent who says family loves all the same while handing out different rules, different grace, different blame, and different consequences. That kind of childhood trains people to either become hyper aware are completely avoidant. Some children become observers. They get quiet, they watch everything, they learn people's patterns because survival requires it. Others become reactors. They repeat the chaos, they inherit the anger, they learn that the loudest person wins. They grow up believing that accountability is something you put on other people and not something you carry yourself. That is how dysfunction becomes tradition. Financial illiteracy, status addiction, and generational damage. Now let's talk about money, because ignorance and money have a toxic relationship. Many people think money will cure the problems that ignorance created, but money does not fix ignorance. Money gives ignorance a budget. Financial literacy remains weak in the United States. FINRA Foundation research continues to focus on how financial knowledge affects people's ability to make stable money decisions, avoid fraud and scams, and build financial security. And they also have another website I'm going to present, Una Momento, por favor, store, door, shore. There we go. Investor Education Foundation, as you can, well, you can't see. The website is finrafoundation.org. The people we help, learn how the foundation helps Americans build financial stability, invest for life goals, and guard against fraud. None of them MLM websites offering guards against fraud, because they are the fraud. That's like the boogeyman giving you the speed dial number to the superhero. Protecting consumers from fraud. Okay, we have a section here. Peer support program for romance scam survivors. Fighting financial fraud with BBBs. I thought they said BBLs. My bad. AARP Fraud Watch Network Hotline. Investor Center. So this is all free resources here. This is not someone with an ad about a stock app to buy or a video with regurgitated information. This is people who actually are for the community, and they have nothing to gain from helping you. So find websites like these when you want to learn about things. I know it seems fun, because if a person genuinely is sharing their knowledge, that could be useful. But a lot of these people that lure people in need of knowledge are not here to give knowledge. They're here to get money. And it's a difference between having a passion and you end up making money off that passion versus money was the first motive. When you have people where money is the first motive, good luck. That's all I'll say. Back to the lesson, kids. Put your phones away. No sleeping in class, Bobby. They spend future stability on temporary status, clothes that will not see the next weather season, cars that they cannot maintain, furniture financed at predatory rates, phones upgraded before bills are paid, luxury brands that are not always luxury quality, vacations funded by credit cards with high interest too. And then the children absorb the lesson. Appearance matters more than security. Some children grow up watching adults put bills in the child's name to protect the adults already damaged credit. That is not hustle. That is financial abuse. The FTC warns that children can become victims of identity theft, and consumer protection agencies advise parents and guardians to watch for signs that accounts were opened in the child's name. Plot twist, what if it's the parent or guardian that opened it? Okay, we're going to review that website too. Good old FTC. They're good for a lot of stuff too, especially if you encountered a scam. That's one of the websites you could report it. Or if you want to know if something is already registered as a scam, you can research that there too. and it should be up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Report fraud, and this is ftc.gov. So this is a government website. Whenever it ends in .gov, it's an official government website. But you also want to, well, depending on where you browsing from, if it has a lock to show that it's authentic, you want to look for that too. Or if your phone ever tells you, or the internet tells you that the website is not acting right or something like that, pay attention to those types of things. See, they have consumer alerts here. How are scammers trying to reach you? Take it down. Act enforcement starts now. Ask to enter your email password and address to open a party invite. That's a scam. See, it's stuff like that. If I had enough time, I would have a channel just dedicated to news, like, breaking news. But I don't, unfortunately. I don't even have time to do this. I'm doing this in a pocket dimension right now. I'm not doing this in real time. This is in the pocket dimension. This shoebox is magical. Some people do not start small because they were lazy. Some start small because the adults before them already spent part of their future. And then the cycle repeats. A parent damages the child's credit. The child grows up with financial trauma. The child learns survival spending instead of wealth building. Then that child becomes an adult who buys status to cover shame. Then their child goes to school with expensive shoes, expensive phones, and no financial foundation. Now the school culture rewards the appearance of money more than the discipline of money. The kid with the expensive things becomes the center of attention, while the kid whose parents made responsible choices gets mocked. That is not community. That is a broke popularity contest with interest attached. Word to bad credit. Schools, teachers, and the accountability gap. Let me see, philosophy. That's like the sloppiest compression I've ever seen of a slideshow. But anyways, a lot of children are not failing alone. They are being failed by adults who refuse to partner with the school. Some parents see every teacher's notes as an attack. Every correction is picking on my child. Every consequence is bias. Every bad grade is the teacher's fault. And if the parent struggled in school, they project their own childhood shame onto the teacher instead of asking, what does my child need to improve? The expense is paid by the child because now the child is not held accountable. They do not build comprehension. They do not build writing skills. They do not learn percentages, understand basic economics, understand government, understand how to advocate for themselves, or understand how to disagree without disrespect. Then they become adults who cannot read a lease, understand a policy, calculate interest, write a complaint, follow instructions, process correction without feeling attacked. Empathy is necessary here. Some children were neglected, had to work early, survived unstable homes, had parents who dropped out, had schools that lacked resources, had trauma no one saw. But empathy cannot become a lifetime excuse for making yourself unbearable to everyone around you. At some point, adulthood requires repair. You may not be responsible for the wound, but you are responsible for whether you keep bleeding on everyone. And you ain't bleeding love, you bleeding hate. Take that shit to another state. Mental illness, addiction, and families that laugh instead of heal. Another dangerous piece of ignorance is how people dismiss mental illness and addiction. Some families do not talk about depression. They say that child is just lazy. They do not talk about addiction. They say he just likes to party. They do not talk about bipolar symptoms, trauma responses, personality issues, anxiety, rage, compulsive behavior, or substance use. They say she crazy like her mama. He just like his daddy. They turn warning signs into family jokes, and that is where ignorance becomes generational neglect. Because when a family labels a pattern instead of treating it, they make the pattern feel permanent. If a child grows up hearing you act just like your no good father, that child is not being guided. That child is being assigned a prophecy. If a teenager is drinking too much, using substances, fighting, spiraling online, having children before they are emotionally or financially ready, and the family laughs because that's exactly how I was at the age, that is not wisdom. That is dysfunction recognizing itself and calling it cute. Some people even laugh when their children repeat the same unstable patterns they lived through. Multiple children with multiple mothers or fathers, unstable relationships, messy breakups, untreated addiction, emotional volatility, and no plan beyond surviving the next crisis. That laughter is not harmless. It tells the child, this is who we are. We don't heal here. We normalize what damaged us. Research on stigma around substance use disorders shows that stigma can harm people with addiction, worsen treatment barriers, and make people less likely to seek help. NIDA also emphasizes that addiction is a treatable brain disorder, not simply a moral failing. And this is the National Institute of Twerkonomics website that I'm about to pull up. Good old StreamYard. That's the Federal Trade Commission stigma. There you go. Is Dipset. Oh, there you go. Y'all remember that song? Stigma and discrimination. Yeah, I read that. But this is also another website. If you are someone you know needs assistance with everything they help with. And look, grants and funding. I'm always telling you about that. Funding opportunities, small business, technology transfers, grant applications. Now, granted, no pun. Well, technically pun because I'm all fun, but this website, I have no idea what these grants are for, but they have grants. They have research and training, they have topics, they have clinical resources, Mary J. Blige and other OVO crisis and pain management, screening tools, treatment, screening and assessment chart. They got news and events, news releases. Let's see what that's about. Maybe they might have some news about reported use of most drugs remain low among U.S. teens. Clinical trial resource for opioid during pregnancy. Oh, geez. Quitting smoking is associated with recovery from others. See, yeah, they have stuff here. So if you like, that's what I mean when it comes to if something is an issue in your life, like the internet has a lot of positive places that you can find more information, and it may give you a different view of something that you may not have been aware of. Like having a view that may be inaccurate initially is not your fault because us as humans, we learn from our environments. That's why a lot of kids doing bad in school are usually in homes where educational conversations are not happening. They just absorbing all of the music, the wild habits, the emotional outbursts. They're literally just mirroring where they came from. So if you see that the mirror is dirty and you want to clean it, just, clean it. It's not as easy to just clean it for some people, but get on the path to cleaning it and stop acting shy. People be big and bad when it come to all of this negative stuff. Y'all know how to go to jail. Y'all know how to have kids, multiple different baby mamas. Y'all know how to have multiple failed marriages. Y'all know how to sign up for all of these things that are fraud, but y'all do the whole credit application. But when it comes to simple changes that are in a positive direction, all of a sudden y'all are timid little kindergartner on the first day of school. Like, chill out, relax. Like, I'm not even gonna give it up like that. I understand that feelings matter, but y'all have to be stronger than that. Y'all are very weak in some situations. And that's why you're getting crushed because you're weak. And you tell people you're weak. You say, hi, I'm weak. I heard here. This person did this to me. And then the person listening, like, oh, we got us another one. Anyways, it can come from family, from friends, from churches, not churches chicken, but churches. It can come from workplaces. It can even come from the person suffering because they were trained to see their own symptoms as shame instead of signals. The danger with ignorant, assumptive, and angry people is that they often dismiss mental illness and addiction in themselves and others until the consequences become too loud to ignore. They want to pray after years of mocking therapy. They want to intervene after years of calling warning signs drama. They want compassion after years of telling people, just stop. They want mercy after years of shaming people for being sick, addicted, traumatized, or unstable. And yes, people must still be accountable for harm. Mental illness is not a free pass to abuse people. Addiction is not a free pass to destroy a household, even though I ain't gonna even go down this one. Trauma is not a free pass to terrorize a workplace, but ignorance makes people choose between two bad extremes. Either they excuse everything or they condemn everything. A grounded person can do both, hold compassion and require accountability. That is maturity. Or you can do like one of the addicts I know who destroyed their family, and when the children got older, the addict tried to act like the addiction never happened. Like the drug houses, all of that just was a dream. It was all a dream. Public spaces, the line, the menu, the speakerphone, and the meltdown. Granted, I wrote this. I mass wrote so many scripts because I just been feeling it. I've been in a creative mood. I could write literally anytime I want, but when I get in a creative mood, it's different. I be on some novel writing shit. But I had just wrote about what I'm about to read about, but amazingly, the other day I was in a waiting room after this was written, and it was an individual who came in the waiting room on the phone, which I feel like if people on the phone, that's cool. But she went from being on the phone to putting the phone on speakerphone, turned the speakerphone up, and proceeded to sit with her mother, or she referred to the lady as her mother, and was just talking under some person clothes about some girl that sleep around for pig lips and pickles, and yeah, everybody then had her and all of this other stuff. And it's like, it was so many things wrong with that situation, but I had a novel read I was reading, so I tuned her out eventually. But I was just amazed at that, and I immediately thought about this script. I'm like, I ain't even put the script up yet, and I'm seeing examples. Anyways, public spaces reveal private discipline. Watch how people behave in lines. Some people will stand in line for 15 minutes with the full menu in front of them, then wait until they reach the counter to start deciding. They had the same phone in their hand the entire time, the same phone they cannot put down, the same phone they use while driving. Some people, even as soon as they get to the stop sign, they look at their phone. Like it's almost like they're robots now. Like people legit be crossing major traffic from a side street, and rather than them be focused on the entry points between the cars, they up here texting. Like it's amazing to me. I just hope if y'all gonna die, y'all die separately, and it don't be nobody that is innocent that have to die, or y'all go to jail or something. Like, where are the people who be doing magic? Put a curse on them people or something. But anyways, but somehow it never occurred to look at the menu, place a mobile order, or have their payment ready. Then they huff and puff because the line is long. Baby, you are a part of the architecture. A lot of modern waiting is optional. Grocery pickup, restaurant apps, order ahead systems, appointment scheduling, online forms, digital check-ins. Many places now provide tools that help people avoid unnecessary waiting. But people refuse to plan, often resent those who did. They see someone walk in, pick up an order, and leave. Now here comes the assumption. Oh, they skipped the line. No, they used the system. They must know somebody. No, they read. They think they better. No, they plan. That is the difference between inconvenience and inefficiency. Some people are not oppressed by the line. They are loyal to habits that create the line. And then there are the speakerphone people, the people who walk into shared spaces broadcasting a conversation nobody subscribed to, the people whose children are moving like a flash flood in a below sea level town, the people who treat every public space like their living room and every correction like a declaration of war. A grounded person does not need a sign for every behavior. A grounded person understands shared space, but the angry, ignorant, and assumptive person needs a rule, a warning, a consequence, and sometimes a security guard. And even then, they will argue with the air, especially the people who always getting into it with people when they're recording at the gym. Majority of those gyms don't even allow that in the first place. So you breaking the rule, a person interrupts you breaking a rule, and you are so entitled that you go back and forth with this person as if they bothered you when you are like a gym is a club. It's a private club. It's not something that people could just walk in off the street and do whatever. You have to be a member there. That's the whole reason they hire people at the front, is because they're the bouncers of the gym. They're the bouncers and the janitors of the gym. And it's like, I'm not understanding what part of club do people not understand? If y'all went to an actual club that said no cell phones, y'all would understand it then. If y'all was hanging around them celebrities who y'all be munching on and guzzling on and they took your phone, you would be fine with it then. So why you can't understand at the gym? People are vulnerable there. Some people may not feel comfortable with their body yet, and they got to worry about being on the internet because everybody's an influencer now. And then people literally can't think about that because the world revolves around them. And when they dumbass get banned, they feel stupid. And then they always got to run to the internet. And you always going to have idiots just like them in their comments, amen, and what they do. That's why with society, the only way to elevate is to separate. And once that separation happens and the elevation happens, either the people who left behind either going to catch up or they just going to continue declining. But as long as you are in areas and in connections with these kinds of people, with these kinds of behaviors, and you letting it go because that's your friend or that's your sister or that's your cousin and you still doing things with them, trust. When it comes back around, a lot of the times it's going to hit the people around them before it hit them. So be careful. When you hanging with people that's in public, that's just disturbed like that. The workplace, when customers, coworkers, and bad managers make life harder, we can criticize corporations for low pay, understaffing, bad policies, and unrealistic expectation. That's valid. But we also have to tell the truth. Many employees are not only suffering because of corporate greed, they are suffering because of other people from the same communities walking in and making the job harder. Retail and service workers are dealing with hostility, threats, and violence. A 2025 retail safety report found that 54% of verbal threats against retailers stem from angry customers. In New Orleans, the retail people shooting at the customers. So, I mean, it go both ways. But my whole point is people in these nasty attitudes is very unnecessary. I don't really think violence solves things, but a lot of emotional people speaking violence, and some of y'all need to get dragged for real and put in your place because it's like y'all walk around like y'all can't be touched and wonder why your life is lonely on the inside. You mean and big and bad in public, but you in the private crying about how lonely you are. Like you, and the connection is never made. The employee at the counter is not the CEO. The nurse at the desk is not the insurance company. The cashier did not design the return policy. The call center worker did not break the system. The server did not personally create the wait time, but ignorant anger looks for the nearest human target. And when people cannot regulate themselves, workers become punching bags. But let's also talk about coworkers and managers. Some ignorant people are not customers. They are supervisors, trainers, team leads, managers. They are adult figures in the workplace who give bad advice, not because they're evil, but because they're limited. And bad advice from a limited person can still damage your life. A manager who does not understand growth may discourage you from applying for a higher position. A supervisor who fears being exposed may punish questions. A coworker who has been comfortable for 15 years may tell you, baby, don't come here doing too much. A family member who never took a risk may call your ambition unrealistic, even though they've been in an entry level position all their life. A boss with poor emotional control may treat accountability like disrespect. Research on psychological safety shows that workplace suffer when people cannot speak up, admit mistakes, or challenge bad decisions without fear. The American Psychological Association has linked low psychological safety to negative workplace outcomes, including emotional burnout and exhaustion. And that's another website that's important because I had skipped a few because I'm like, I'm not about to just be showing websites all the time. Like, you know, I don't want to steal the journey from you. That's like me telling you to visit somewhere and I record moment by moment of me being there. It's like you're not going to have a unique experience. You're going to be trying to duplicate what I showed. Psychological safety in the changing workplace. And this is another website, American Psychological Association. Self-explanatory. Came, we saw, back to the lesson. No sleeping in the back. Stop snoring. That is why ignorant leaderships are dangerous. A bad manager does not only slow down productivity, a bad manager can shrink people. They can make smart employees stop talking, creative employees stop trying. They can make honest employees start lying to survive. They can turn the workplace into a daycare for adult egos. And when accountability gets close, these people often have an emotional outburst. They yell, they cry, they deflect, they blame, they bring up unrelated history. They become the victim of the conversation they cause because accountability requires a stable self image. And some people are not stable enough to hear the truth without feeling attacked. And where is the one? I'm going to just leave it there. Driving exposes people emotional development fast. The angry and assumptive driver is always heading nowhere at 100 miles per hour, tailgating, lane hopping, speeding into closed lanes, cutting people off, acting like every driver in front of them was personally sent by Satan to delay their destiny. Road rage and aggressive driving are serious public safety issues. The National Safety Council describes road rage as aggressive, sometimes violent behavior that can be fueled by driving stressors, outside stressors, and false assumptions about other road users. Yeah, I ain't gonna waste my time on that website. The phrase matters. False assumptions. Someone slows down and you assume they're playing with you. Someone merges and you assume disrespect. Someone drives the speed limit and you assume they're trying to control you. Now your imagination is operating heavy machinery. That is terrifying. That is not just bad driving. That is emotional immaturity with horsepower. Social media, rage bait, over drinking, substances, and digital degeneration. My slides don't match, so I'm just moving for visual effects of new screens. Social media has given ignorance a stage, anger an audience, and assumptions a comment section. People see something online and try it on themselves with no regard for the outcome. They blindly support the trends, blindly support movements, influencers, celebrities, religious leaders, political figures, anyone who makes their existing feelings feel righteous. And the algorithm loves it. Research has shown that social media can amplify moral outrage because likes, shares, and social rewards train people to express more outrage over time. Now add addiction and mental health spiraling into the mix. People online will drive up views for someone clearly over drinking, like AB. They will watch someone use substances on camera. They will laugh at someone live streaming a breakdown. They will clip the worst moment, share the worst moment, meme it, debate it, monetize it, then pretend they care once the person ends up hospitalized, arrested, dead, broke, exposed, or publicly humiliated. That is not entertainment. That is digital crowd cruelty. Cruelty, like cruel summer. And ignorant, assumptive, angry people love content that makes them feel superior. They watch someone spiral and say, at least I ain't that bad. They watch someone drunk and say, they grown. They watch someone with addiction and say, they chose that. Watch someone mentally unstable and say, oh, they're crazy. But if it is someone they like, suddenly they understand nuance. If it's their favorite artist, they ask for compassion. If it's their favorite politician, they ask for context or say it's fake. If it is their favorite influencer, they blame the media. If it is their family member, they want privacy. That is the hypocrisy, you hypocrite. The ignorant do not have principles, they have preferences. And morality changes depending on who they like. Moral barbarianism. Oh, that was that one for that one. Let me see if this one is the right one. I don't know. When people justify harm over beliefs, politics, and political preferences. When I say some behavior is close to barbarianism, I am not talking about intelligent level, race, class, or background. I'm talking about a psychological pattern where people abandon reason, empathy, and moral consistency, then justify harm because the target belongs to the wrong group. That is not civilized disagreement. That is moral regression. Research on moral disengagement explains how people convince themselves that harmful behavior is acceptable while still seeing themselves as good. Albert Bandura's work described how people use moral justification, sanitized language, displacement of responsibility, and dehumanization to excuse harm. This is what happens when someone says they deserve to get beat. They should lose everything. I don't care what happens to them. They're not one of us. They supported the wrong politician. They believed in the wrong religion. They're the wrong skin color. They like an artist that I hate. They are from the wrong group. They don't live how I live. That is how people become morally primitive while still calling themselves righteous. They will justify a person being physically harmed or morally destroyed because of politics, race, religion, class, celebrity fandom, gender wars, internet beef, or some group identity they're attached their ego to. That is not justice. That is tribal cruelty wearing a moral costume. Dehumanization research shows that treating or seeing people as less than fully human is connected to serious harm, social exclusions, and violence. The Standard Encyclopedia of Philosophy describes dehumanization as involving either treating people in ways that harm their humanity or psychologically regarding them as less than human. That is why this matters. Once people stop seeing opponents as human, they can justify almost anything. They can laugh at suffering, cheer for humiliation, excuse violence, celebrate someone's downfall, call cruelty standing on business. No, sometimes that is not standing on business. Sometimes that is standing on a collapsed moral foundation. And these same people do not follow the basic moral code of shared spaces. There used to be a common understanding: do not loudly discuss finance, sex, religion, and politics in shared spaces where people did not consent to that conversation. Not because these topics are bad, but because these topics are loaded. They carry identity, shame, trauma, beliefs, social tension. A grounded person understands time, place, tone, and audience, but ignorant, assumptive, angry people will discuss someone's finances at the dinner table, someone's sex life in public, someone's religion at work, and politics in the checkout line like everyone else signed up for their podcast. Then when the room shifts, they act shocked. Shared spaces require shared restraint. That is part of civilization. When people lose that restraint, they do not become free, they become socially dangerous. Money does not cure ignorance, it funds it. The ignorant often believe money will fix everything, but money does not fix poor emotional regulation. Money does not fix low comprehension, insecurity, impulsivity, status addiction, unprocessed childhood wounds. Money only gives those things more room to perform. That is why sudden wealth can destroy people who never built wisdom. Lottery winners, athletes, entertainers, influencers, and people who suddenly come into money can lose everything when they mistake symptoms for problems. The symptom may be unpaid bills. The problem may be impulsivity. The symptom may be loneliness. The problem may be emotional immaturity. The symptom may be low status. The problem may be shame. The symptom may be debt. The problem may be trying to impress people who will not help you pay it. So when money comes, they treat the symptom. They buy the clothes, car, house, jewelry, table, attention, illusion. But the original problem simply changes the outfit, and now the maintenance arrives. Luxury has upkeep. A bigger house has bigger repairs. A luxury car has luxury maintenance prices. Designer items need replacement to keep the status going. Public image requires constant feeding. The ignorant spend money to establish wealth instead of using money to create stability. And predators know this. Predatory lenders know, scammers know, luxury brands know, credit card companies know, influencers know, status merchants know. The ignorant person is not just a customer, they're a business model. Not to mention, people be so emotional that the people loving on them and love bombing them make them feel special and make them feel good, not realizing the people know that you about to be a duck and quack. You paying for they family generational wealth. Friendships, family, and the emotional floor trap. Some ignorant, angry, and assumptive people are strangers. Others are sitting in your phone under family, friend, day one, cousin, bestie, brother, sister, mama, daddy, or I know they mean well. And that is where it gets tricky. Because if you were raised not to judge people, you may have 1,000 pre-written excuses already. They had a hard life. They did not know any better. That is just how they are. They are going through something. They love me in their own way. They did not mean it. But at some point, they did not mean it does not matter when the impact keeps meaning something to you. Some people only seem safe because you never disagreed with them. Whew. You connected on common ground and never left it. The conversations were brief. The outings had distractions. The friendships lived in laughter, nostalgia, which nostalgia is a hell of a drug, gossip, errands, food, music, and memories. Then one day the disagreement touches you directly. They dismiss your feelings. They decide their assumption is law. They brag about being real. They brag about having empathy. But the second your feelings inconvenience their self image, their empathy clocks out. No call, no show. That is when you realize the way they treated other people was not random. It was a preview. They had already shown you the pattern. You were just not the target yet. And when you finally became the target, you then understood. Some people do not have relationships, they have emotional supply chains. They vent to you, drain you, use you, disappear, then return when their tank is empty again. You do not get dividends from ride or die loyalty to people committed to misunderstanding you. You get a wet shirt from tears and a footprint on your back from being an emotional floor mat. And be careful who encouraged you to keep taking it. Some people were not encouraging forgiveness, they were waiting for their turn. How ignorant advice can keep people small. Not all harmful advice comes from malice. Sometimes bad advice comes from ignorance. And that is why it is dangerous. Because when someone loves you, raised you, manages you, mentors you, has authority over you, their advice carries weight even when their wisdom is underweight. A person who never left the neighborhood may tell you not to move, who never went to for the promotion may tell you not to apply. Unhealed may tell you therapy is pointless. Bad credit may tell you credit does not matter. Stuck in survival mode may call your planning doing too much. A manager who feels threatened may call your ambition impatience. A parent who fears abandonment may call your growth disrespect. A friend who benefits from your availability may call your boundary selfish. Then you got to get your tiny violin out and the saxophones. And here is the twist: some of them are not trying to destroy you, they are trying to keep the structure they understand. Your growth changes the room, your healing changes the dynamic, your boundary changes the access, your ambition changes the comparison, your discipline exposes their excuse. So they may pressure you to stay small because your growth makes them feel uncomfortable. That is why you have to audit advice. Ask, has this person succeeded in the area they're advising me about? Does this person benefit from me staying the same? Is this advice rooted in wisdom or fear? Is this person warning me about risk or projecting their regret? Do they give guidance or do they use shame? Can they handle me outgrowing their expectation? Bad advice can mess up a family. Bad advice can mess up a workplace, a career. It can keep a person broke, afraid, loyal to dysfunction, and emotionally stuck. And when you challenge that advice, ignorant people often take accountability. They have emotional outbursts because the truth is too close. They cry, rage, accuse, say you change, say you think you're better, say you're disrespectful. But sometimes you change simply means you stop letting limitations govern your life. You got to have that conversation with the person when it's raining. So when they call you disrespectful, you got to time the lightning just right. So when they call you disrespectful and you laugh, lightning strikes as you laugh, like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Anyways, I did that before. It was fire. Not intentionally, accidentally. Anyways, predictions. Where this is headed if people do not wake up. If this continues, several things are likely to get worse. Wait. Oh, that was the man. Oops. That's why it didn't make sense. That wasn't the right slide for the right thing. That was for the other one. Oh well. Anyways, first public spaces will be more controlled, more security cameras, more bans, more locked items, more appointment only systems, more digital check-ins, and less tolerance for disruptive behavior. Second, workplaces will become more automated. Companies already have financial incentives to replace difficult human interactions with apps, kiosks, AI systems, self-service options, and of course they outsource it overseas. They be lying when they saying AI. They just sent it overseas. Some of the people sound like AI. If customers keep abusing workers, business will not look for ways to remove workers from the line of fire. Third, social trust will keep declining. People will avoid neighbors, community events, public conversations, and isolate more because dealing with unstable people becomes exhausting. Fourth, schools will face deeper conflict between parents and teachers. If parents continue treating accountability like disrespect, children will lose the correction they need early and meet harsher consequences later. The school to prison pipeline. Parents are oiling the pipes instead of breaking the pipes. First, emotional manipulation online will become more precise. Rage bait will become more targeted. It kind of already is. More personalized and more addictive. The people who cannot regulate anger will become easier to direct. Six, financial predators will keep winning. A population with low financial literacy, high emotional spending, and strong status pressure is profitable. That is not an accident. That is a marketplace. Seventh, untreated mental illness and addiction will continue turning into public content. People will keep watching spirals as entertainment until the spiral becomes a tragedy. The future will reward people who can pause, read, plan, question, regulate, and adapt. Everyone else will be easier to sell, scare, anger, rush, divide, and exploit. How to combat it personally? The first step is self-audit. Ask yourself, do I assume disrespect before I ask questions? Do I interrupt instead of listening? Do I get angry when corrected? Do I confuse inconvenience with injustice? Do I keep defending habits that keep hurting me? Do I spend more energy looking successful than becoming stable? Do I know how to apologize without explaining myself into innocence? Do I mistake my feelings for facts? Do I use trauma as context or as a permanent excuse? Do I dismiss mental illness, addiction, and therapy because of pride? Do I laugh at family dysfunction instead of interrupting it? Do I justify harm when I dislike the person being harmed? Do I give advice from wisdom or from fear and limitation? Do I talk about sensitive topics and share spaces with no restraint? Then build replacement habits. Read more. Pause before responding. Ask what else could this mean? Use order ahead systems. Make appointments. Have payments ready. Read policies before arguing. Stop treating workers like emotional punching bags. And workers stop having them nasty ass attitudes to innocent people who ain't did nothing to your musty ass. Learn basic finance. Learn emotional regulation. Learn conflict resolution. Take mental health seriously. Treat addiction as serious, not funny. Stop making public spirals into entertainment. Stop glorifying being real if your version of real is just rude, reactive, and underdeveloped. Take accountability before life forces it on you. A lot of the times, people already living through their own accountability. And then how to deal with it at work. If you work with or serve angry, ignorant, and assumptive people, do not try to out emotion them. Use structure. Stay calm and brief. Don't over explain to someone committed to misunderstanding. Short sentences reduce the number of things they can twist. Repeat the policy, not your feelings. The return window is 30 days. The appointment time is required. I can help when the language stays respectful. Set boundaries early. Do not wait until they are ready, already at level 10. I want to help, but I cannot continue if you yell. Document repeated behavior. In workplaces, documentation protects you. Dates, times, witnesses, exact phrases, outcomes, and etc. matters. Use management and security when needed. You are not paid to be abused. Escalation is not weakness. OSHA provides workplace violence prevention guidance for employers because employer workplace violence is a real safety issue, not just a personality conflict. That's another website I'll be pulling up in a second after I finish the section first. Do not personalize projected anger. Some people walk in loaded. You were just the nearest outlet. Do not take career advice from people invested in your stagnation. A coworker who refuses to grow is not automatically qualified to guide your growth. For managers, the answer is not pizza parties and fake positivity. It is staffing, safety policies, training, consequences, psychological safety, and a culture where employers and employees know leadership will not sacrifice them to appease abusive customers or unstable coworkers. And here is the OSHA website because that's important. You got to know the big people who to report people to. And OSHA stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You know, you have your standards, you got your enforcement area, whistleblower protection program, all of that. I briefly skip over all of this because there's enough videos. Did I even show it? I think I did. I don't know. I'll just redo it if in case I didn't. But it's enough stuff to talk about on these videos that I'm going to eventually cover anything mentioned. Even if it's one sentence, it's probably going to eventually end up being a full video going more in depth because it's easy for misunderstanding to occur when people don't understand what you're referencing when you make statements. Like a lot of these statements may sound crazy, but if I base it off of actual information or show you real life examples, it makes it more understandable. How to deal with it at home with family or with neighbors. When you share a home, family system, or neighborhood with these types of people, the strategy changes. You may not simply be able to walk away, so you need boundaries with less emotional exposure. Do not debate every false assumption. Some people use accusations as invitations to chaos. Decline the invitation. Use written communication when possible. Text and emails create records and reduce the ability to rewrite the conversation. Keep the conversation specific. The music needs to be lowered after 10 p.m. Do not use my belongings without asking. I'm not discussing this while you are yelling. Avoid oversharing. Emotionally immature people may weaponize personal information later. Create consequences. Have well, create physical and emotional exits. That was a Freudian slip. Have room, routine, errand, walk, or phrase that ends the interaction safely. For neighbors, document patterns, dates, times, recordings where legal, photos, landlord notices, HOA reports, or police reports may become necessary. And also, it's illegal anywhere in the country to block driveways. So if y'all have those neighbors who have more cars than space, and for whatever reason they can't organize the cars because it's a lot of free space they have that they wasting in between the multiple cars, but your driveway blocking your driveway is just that's normal to them. There's nothing wrong with that. Like half my car is in front of this person's driveway behind a car. Anyways, for family, stop confusing access with love. You can love someone and still limit their access to your nervous system. No comment. Name patterns without becoming the family therapist. This keeps happening. This is not healthy. I'm not laughing at this anymore. That sounds like something that needs real help. Do not let family jokes replace family healing. Crazy like your mother is not a diagnosis, just like your father is not a guidance. That is how we are is not a treatment plan. If someone is dangerous, threatening, violent, stalking, escalating, prioritize safety over trying to teach them a lesson. Some people do not need one more explanation. They need distance, consequences, and intervention. And finally, we're to the end. It's amazing how no matter how fast I go, I always end up at an hour. Closing, change before life intervenes. The ignorant, angry, and assumptive usually change in one of two ways through self awareness or through consequence. And consequence is not gentle. Consequences may look like losing a job, a relationship, custody, housing, money, reputation, freedom, access to people who finally got tired. Word to me. Life will eventually correct what ego refuses to examine. So look around. How many miserable people in your life display these traits? How many people are always angry, always assuming, always venting, blaming, broke, late, loud, misunderstood, real, the victim, always surrounded by drama and somehow never responsible? Now ask the harder question. Do you display these traits? Because it is easy to identify ignorance in other people. It is harder to catch it in yourself because it starts charging rent in your personality. Awareness, intelligence, and integrity requires groundedness. A grounded person does not need to be told every rule because they naturally respect shared space. A grounded person can be corrected without collapsing. A grounded person can be angry without becoming dangerous. A grounded person can admit when they do not know. Without they can listen without preparing a defense. They can treat mental illness and addiction seriously without removing accountability. A grounded person can disagree without dehumanizing. They can change before life has to humble them publicly. And that is the message. Ignorance can be repaired. Assumptions can be slowed down. Anger can be regulated. Mental illness can be supported, but only if the person is willing. Because if not, they will keep walking through life mistaking every mirror for an attack. And eventually, the world stops explaining and starts responding. Block them. Get away from them. Get a job. Stay away from her, like the Demi Lovato tweet said. But when it comes to dealing with people, you have to look at what history shows. Does history show that this person has your best interest, or are there times where you question whether or not they even cared if you made it to the next day? If a person does not have your best interest when they're dealing with you, that means they're dealing with you for their best interest. So once you realize that and start connecting patterns, it will be easier to discard the person because they don't care about you anyway. It's long-term manipulation. Remember the long game, guys. Later.